Hey, Facebook friends and YouTube. I'm going to make this video about what is it to be saved. And this is a very complex issue, and I think it's a lot deeper than people think that it is. Like, for some reason, a very common misconception in America is like you pray the prayer and you're good to go. And I think, maybe just subconsciously, but I think a lot of people think how they live after that doesn't really matter, and they can just do whatever they want, and they're saved anyways. And I think the reason for this misconception is, for one, Calvinism, which is a predominant theology in high church, where people think, that certain people are elect and chosen. So then if you come to believe that you are one of those chosen and elect people, then, if you really think about it, then it's like you might start to think that you don't have to put forth any effort, and that no matter what you do, you're saved, so it really doesn't matter. And it's really kind of a defeatist mentality, I think, because it can lead to laziness and a lack of zeal in your faith, and then people just don't really care about evangelizing or doing good works or working out their salvation with fear and trembling, like the Bible says. Then, so that's high church people, which is more formal churches. And then you have more informal churches, which would be more like charismatic churches. And there you have a similar problem, I think, where people might have an experience, or they might have a spiritual gift or a vision or something like that. And then they think they're good to go, and it doesn't matter what they do. But an overarching thing to remember is that our fruit is more important than our gifts, And the main verse that applies to this group of people is when Jesus said, many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, did we not cast out demons in your name? Did we not prophesy, perform many miracles? And he'll say to them, turn away from me, I never knew you. So that's really interesting. So it's not like what we do in the sense of like miracles and the gifts of the Spirit, that's not what matters. So then it can lead someone to be like, well, then what does matter? What does matter is our faith, and that we stay in faith no matter what, that we trust God no matter what. And, God knows if we're trusting God no matter what, like through every situation. So that's really important. And I think people don't realize, how important that is. And then also just our character, and that we have the fruit of the Spirit, Jesus said, you will know them by their fruit. The fruit that he was talking about was love, joy, peace, patience, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, and self-control. Now, not every Christian operates in those all the time, but predominantly we should, if we're really Christian. We should generally be a loving person. We should generally have joy and, generally not depression. If we're really saved, we should have peace. We should have self-control, like 95% of the time. Obviously it would be good to 100% of the time. And in John, he says, children, I write this to you so that you will not sin. But if we do sin, we have an advocate for, to the Father through Jesus. But so the ideal thing is that we just won't sin. So, and, we should see our identity as saints, not sinners. Like, once you're a Christian, you're not a sinner anymore. And, it's common for people to say, like, in sermons, like, oh, I sin like 20 times a day. Like, no, you don't. Hopefully you don't. Hopefully you can go a whole day without sinning. You should be able to. And I think what we count as sin is probably not sin. Like, I think a lot of times people think of anger as sin, but think about it. Jesus got angry a lot, and he was perfect and without sin. So anger isn't necessarily a sin. Yeah. So anyways, and so that would be a good study too, what really qualifies as sin. I actually haven't done a Bible study on that yet, but here's some verses about salvation. By grace you have been saved through faith, and this is not your own doing. It is the gift of God, not a result of works, so that no one may boast. So you're saved through faith, so you have to maintain that faith your whole life in order to ensure that you're saved. It's not just like having faith for a week or a year. You have to maintain that, which means that faith essentially is believing that God exists, that he's good, and that he loves you. Hebrews says, without faith it is impossible to please God, and faith is believing that God is a rewarder of those who seek him. So you have to always believe that. And I hope that helped you all. May God bless you.